Lake Country Lutheran head coach Janet Barr reacts from the bench against Waterloo during the Division III Championship match in 2015. Barr is one of the rare athletic directors in the area who remains able to coach. Photo, Corey Wilson. Milwaukee Journal Sentinel right parenthesis for more than a decade. Mike Fink was the prototypical athletics director at Kilmarine. He coached football in the fall and softball in the spring along with his litany of duties as AD. During his time there, the football program earned 5 of its 8 playoff berths in program history, including 3 straight trips from 2000 to 2004. Softball also had its only state tournament appearance during his tenure. But as his programs were thriving, the demands of an athletic director and coach also increased. Coaching becomes a year-round deal now if you're going to be good and you're going to compete. Fink said, there's so much time and hours that have to go into that. Those demands made Fink rethink whether this endeavor was still feasible. He gave up coaching and became solely an athletic director. Everybody knows you get to a point where something has to give because of everything that's going on. Fink said, for me, I coached for a number of years but just knew it was time that I needed to let that go and concentrate on the rest of my responsibilities. Freshman kicker Austin Wolf gets a celebratory hug from Kilmarine head coach Mike Fink after completing a 32-yard field goal as time expired in the first half of a 2011 game. Fink no longer coaches football and focuses on the AD job at Kilmarine. Photo, Scott Ash. Scott Ash / staff photographer right parenthesis. Fink has not been the only one to face this predicament. Of the 34 athletic directors in the now coverage area within 4 major conferences, the Classic 8, Greater Metro, Woodland and North Shore, not one was a head coach in the 2016-17 academic year. In the Southeast, Scott Haller of Oak Creek is able to serve as AD and summer baseball coach. Newly hired Catholic Memorial AD Matt Bergen is expected to coach boys track and field this spring. But no coach leads multiple sports like Fink once did. Losing a connection with students when former Oconomowoc football coach Ryan McMillan became athletic director at Muskego this summer. His coaching clipboard did not make the trip south. He's already acclimating himself to the athletic director position as a full-time responsibility. It's a lot. And I've seen it be a lot on people. McMillan said, I just want to focus on this job and help my coaches be successful without actually coaching. Not gearing up for practice August 1st gave McMillan a weird feeling. It's definitely different. He said, I felt when I first saw them come out on Tuesday that I should be somewhere and be doing something. At Oconomowoc, McMillan knew almost every student in the school as the only teacher to teach health, a required course. I basically taught every kid in the school there. He said, it was a great platform to have an influence. Now at Muskego, many of the 590 students won't know who he is when the school doors open this fall. Ryan McMillan stepped down as football coach at Oconomowoc and accepted the athletics director position at Muskego this past summer. Photo, Katie Clan. Milwaukee Journal Sentinel right parenthesis been meeting with coaches as opposed to kids. McMillan said, there's definitely a transition where you build more relationships with the adults than the kids. Like other athletic directors. McMillan attributes athletic directors' lack of ability to coach to the increasing demands of the AD job. There are so many hats that school districts are asking athletic directors to wear and do and lead. And most guys are athletic directors and assistant principals. McMillan said, and I'll be observing one of the teaching departments here at MHS as well. With all the activities and athletics. Our head coaches put in way more hours than are ever expected or they're even compensated for. And it's really become in most sports a year-round job for a head coach. New Berlin West AD Jordan Napoli said, and now coming into the athletic directing role, you are in charge of making sure those coaches are feeling supported year-round. Napoli also said that he misses coaching and teaching. You get to see kids outside of the school building and build relationships with them in a different manner. Napoli said, that level of making deep, solid relationships with those kids isn't there as an athletic director right parenthesis. On staff prior to taking his first AD job at New Berlin Eisenhower in 2007. Jeff Gabrielson spent 25 years coaching at Concordia University in Mequon, after a 2-year break from football as just the athletic director at Ike. Gabrielson took on assistant coaching as well under the late Jeff Setz. Jeff Setz was a legendary coach at Eisenhower while I was there. Gabrielson said, at that time, Coach Setz had 4 or 5 former head coaches on his staff. When you're a good coach, it doesn't bother you to have other quality coaches and even your bosses on staff. When he left Eisenhower to take the Wauwatosa West job in 2011, he remained on the sidelines. Left parenthesis Tosa West wanted me to coach too because of my background. Gabrielson said, They wanted me to help rebuild the program. And that worked out well. Being an assistant coach has its challenges. Practices often overlap with other sporting events, which Gabrielson says requires planning and help. As the sun sets, Wauwatosa West Athletics Director Jeff Gabrielson, right, holds a ribbon after it was cut before the start of West's game against Tosa East in 2015. The first game on the new turf football field at West. Photo, Peter Zuzga. Staff photo by Peter Zuzga, right, parenthesis double quote, especially in a sport like football that is so time consuming. It makes it tough. Gabrielson said, you have to have everything planned out well in advance. Double quote, an exception to the rule, many people tell Oak Creek Athletics/Activities Director Scott Holler. I don't know, you do it, Holler. The only athletic director at a large school in the coverage area to be a head coach last year, says, I just do. Double quote, he initially coached baseball while teaching gym classes at nearby Edgewood Elementary and eventually worked as the game manager for basketball games, halfway through the 2013-14 school year. Previous athletic director Greg Lamp retired because of health issues. Holler received the ad job. Other than the occasional spring sports state appearance, Holler has limited scheduling conflicts because the Knights play summer baseball. Double quote, it single quote, has worked out well because we do play summer baseball. Holler said, it's not all that challenging once the spring sports season is over. I'm really able to focus 100% on baseball, which is what my players deserve. Double quote, not enough people in the building in smaller schools like Lake Country Lutheran, which has an enrollment of 309. Athletic directors do not have the luxury of keeping the roles separate. Lake Country Lutheran Athletic Director Janet Barr has coached volleyball for 14 years and loves it, but would be willing to give it to an interested and qualified teacher. Double quote, you have less people in the building, Barr said. If there was somebody else in the building that wanted to coach volleyball right now that was qualified, I would let them do it over me for sure. Double quote, Barr rejected the idea that it's easier to do both at a smaller school like Lake Country Lutheran, which has produced regular state qualifiers in baseball and girls soccer, not to mention the girls volleyball team that made its first state appearance 2 years ago with Barr at the helm. Double quote, we offer all the sports that everybody else offers, Barr said, so it isn't like I have less work. Double quote, just like Holler, she has a team behind her to help be in more than one place at one time. Double quote, I had a lot of help. It takes a village, Barr said. My husband, Dave, will cover soccer games and stuff that are at the same time, and I have a guy that is my gym manager when it's a volleyball game at home, so I don't have to be ad and coach. Double quote, my photo, Oak Creek varsity baseball coach Scott Holler watches his team in 2016. Holler is the only athletics director in the now coverage area in a big school conference who also serves as head coach of a varsity sport. Photo, Peter Zuzga / Now Media Group, right, parenthesis, avoiding conflicts of interest. Athletic directors currently coaching, while constantly busy, also reap some benefits from their double duty. Double quote, it single quote, as like a principal, Barr said, if you're not teaching anything or you haven't been in the classroom for a long time, sometimes you forget the reality of what it's like. I like that piece of it. Double quote, Gabrielson uses his assistant coach position to evaluate head coach Matt Good. Double quote, that single quote, as how I evaluate him. Gabrielson said, I'm evaluating him as a head coach on what he does and all of his ideas. Double quote, Holler and Barr have both used their head coaching positions to benefit other programs. When coaches complain about something not being in a budget, Barr happily gives them some ideas based on her personal experience. Double quote, I single quote, am kind of a hard sell when they want money, Barr added. I have lots of ideas of how they can go and raise it themselves, and we're a private school, so we have to do that. Double quote, coaching also brings the often misguided perception that the athletic director's program gets preferential treatment. Double quote, I don't want coaches to ever think, well, she's the volleyball coach, so of course the volleyball team gets new uniforms, Barr said. Actually, it's probably to the detriment of volleyball because they'll be the last ones to get something, or I will be fundraising and will be using all my camp money instead of using budget money for anything for volleyball. Double quote, on the flip side, people had actually told Holler that he isn't doing enough for baseball. Double quote, I single quote, I've gotten the comment that since I become the athletic director, maybe I don't publicize some of the success of the baseball program enough, Holler said. But I'm very cognizant of making sure that doesn't happen. Double quote, Barr and Holler also make it clear that if a kid is unhappy with how they handle an issue, they can talk to the principal. Holler makes this a point of emphasis at the start of each season. Double quote, I expect to have a good relationship with my players and to make sure they know their role on the team, Holler said, but if there does come a point where there's some sort of conflict, then I'll try to handle it first foremost as the coach, and if they're not satisfied with that, It certainly is known to them that they can go to Mr. Michael Reed. Family time is Holler balances 60 plus sports and clubs while at the helm of the baseball program. He also has a wife and 3 small kids. The oldest is going into 4th grade and the other 2 children, twins, are entering 1st grade. I'm very lucky that I had a very understanding wife. Holler added, my wife, Julie, comes from a sports background herself and a family that loves sports. Bar has seen the same challenges managing a family life and professional life. You spend a lot of time away from your family just coaching or just being an athletic director. Bar said, you put both those 2 together. And my husband doesn't really see me in the fall. That's kind of just how it is. When her son was playing varsity basketball, Bar opted to step aside and only be an athletic director. I decided that I really wanted to be able to go and always see his games. Bar said, he was only going to be there a couple years, so I didn't want to miss his games. Gabrielson, meanwhile, has one advantage that allows him to play the dual role. I'm an empty nester, so it works out. Gabrielson said, it would be very difficult if I had a family at home.